guys. Hopefully you can see me. There's a little bit of a glare, but I wanted to be outside today, just outside my condo, so I think we're good. I think we're good. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes to see if anyone's going to join us live. If not, you just watch this recording when you want to watch it. This is going to be the second to last live Q&A I do as I'm getting closer to my due date. And so we'll have one more next week, and then we'll be taking a break, just as an FYI here. All right. I'm just gonna take a sip. I have my phone propped up on my mason jar, so. Hello, whoever's joining. Hello. So like I said, this is gonna be the last, second to last live Q&A I do on Wednesdays. I took a break last week to mute my page and focus on promoting Black voices, Black businesses, ways to learn more about anti-racism. So that's why we skipped last week, but we're back on board for this week. And next week we'll have our last one before I pop this bun out, hopefully. So, and then in the fall, I will probably start it back up again. So ways to get me questions, you can always ask them here live. You can email them to me at jupiterslabyrinth@gmail.com, or you can DM me on any social media platform. It's totally up to you. And I do have a few questions to answer that I got from you all today. And let's just dive right in. And again, for those of you who are tuning in live, awesome. Please feel free to throw any questions, or if there's anything that needs clarifying, let me know and I will do so. All right, so the first question was about using yarrow for dental health and how you might make yarrow medicine in relationship to teeth and like in a mouthwash form. And so yarrow grows wild around the New Hampshire, New England seacoast. And this time of year, obviously, it's the best time to go ahead and use fresh plant material. Yarrow is really wonderful for tightening and toning the tissues and for dealing with bleeding gums. It's an antimicrobial, so it can kill off any infection that might be going on in the teeth as well. Hey, Jennifer. So I'm going to throw in a couple extra plants to consider making mouthwash too, because I do make my own herbal mouthwash. So a couple other ones I'll mention real quickly right here is white oak bark. White oak bark is actually, according to Matthew Wood, I haven't seen significant enough change on my own to concur, but I trust him. He's an amazing clinical herbalist. You should follow him if you don't already. But white oak bark, awesome for actually rebuilding cavities, like rebuilding the dental structure, the structure of the tooth when you have caries in your mouth or when you have enamel that's wearing down. It's a really powerful plant to utilize. And then I would also throw in plantain. Plantain is a really wonderful soother to the tissues. It's really specific to the tongue and the mouth and the tissues of the tongue and the mouth. But it has an ability to draw things out. So when you're talking about gingivitis or abscesses or infections of the gums, the tissues within the mouth, it helps to soothe them, but also pull out any infection, any irritation that might be going on there. So how would you utilize the medicine best, and how do you extract it and create a mouthwash? So first off, I want to kind of put out there and remind you that 90% of the mouthwashes out there are alcohol based. So certainly using tincture, and I'm not going to go into how to make a tincture. There's plenty of YouTube videos on my page and others to learn about doing that. But it's, it can be a very simple process, but using alcohol to extract the plant material is a really great way, and I would absolutely do that with yarrow. So you could use yarrow tincture For white oak bark, though, I would say it is actually best extracted in water. So you would do a hot water infusion, like a strong overnight tea infusion. But what's great about that is that you can combine it with your yarrow tincture, which has alcohol in it, which is a preservative, so you don't have to worry about the white oak bark kind of turning bad in your blend. Plantain, I actually like to add some oil, so plantain infused oil, which is basically making a tincture, only you're using oil as your menstruum versus alcohol. And I like doing that because it gives you a sense of oil pulling, right? So it's almost combining regular old mouthwash with the Ayurvedic practice of swishing with oil and oil pulling. And what's a wonderful perk about utilizing oil in your mouthwash is that yes, you could do spilanthes, Jen. Absolutely. I've not worked specifically with it, but yes, it's very well known for dental health. Absolutely, spilanthes it's in a lot of herbal blends, for sure. So, what you can do here is also add some essential oils if you want. Like, I'm not a huge fan of ingesting essential oils, but if you buy any mouthwash on the market, you're getting some of them in there for the flavor, right? So very mindfully, you can add essential oils just for the flavor bit, and it'll have the plantain oil to attach to and mix up readily. It's easier to kind of blend essential oils because they're oil based, and so they need something to attach to. Otherwise, they're just going to attach right into your own tissues, and that's not great. Even the safe ones, you don't really want that happening to. So plantain, yarrow, white oak bark are my favorites, and yes, spilanthes can be added. Again, I haven't worked with that herb yet, so it's not my specialty, but there's a lot of information on the benefits of dental health and spilanthes, so go ahead and research that one on your own if you'd like. So it would be tincture for yarrow, a strong herbal overnight tea infusion of white oak bark, and then plantain infused oil. And I would probably do just about equal parts, and then add a few drops of essential oil just to taste. One other herb you might consider just for the enjoyability, if you will, making your mouthwash palatable, is stevia extract. So you could do it in another tincture form, or you could do it, maybe you can add it to your white oak bark infusion. And stevia is a sweetener, and it's actually beneficial for teeth. It actually helps to make things taste good, but it also helps to keep the mouth healthy as well. So it's a nice little addition if you want a little bit of sweetness, because a lot of mouthwashes have a little bit of sweetness to them. You can do that. And you know, I'm kind of the kitchen witch who doesn't always follow a recipe. I kind of just throw things together and see how they work, but really you could do any combination of those things. And of course, consistency is key, especially when it comes to, you know, the white oak bark use. If you're thinking about, you know, trying to utilize it for rebuilding actual tooth enamel and filling in caries, know that you really have to be diligent about it. Some of my favorite essential oils to consider that are specific for dental health would be tea tree, myrrh. Those are probably my top two. And again, we're going real light on those essential oils. You don't go heavy. You don't follow regular dilution. This is like a 0.5 dilution rate here, because, you know, it will attach to your tissues. You just want to spit it out. No swallowing, although who swallows their mouthwash? So yes, that would be a basic blend there. For a mouthwash. So hopefully that inspires some creativity. Certainly use it as a jumping off point. You don't have to, you know, you use exactly the recipe. Clove. Yes, you could do clove. Clove is more of like for pain relief. It helps to numb out nerves. So people with abscesses or have just had teeth pulled and they're, you know, that is how clove is used. And what's curious, actually, and thank you for saying this because you're reminding me, that yarrow root, because we're talking about, in this instance, I was talking about leaf and flower being used for the mouthwash, but the root of yarrow has the same constituents of clove oil. And so it smells like clove, it tastes like clove, and it has the same numbing effect that clove oil would do. And actually, Jen, I would probably just do, I would make a clove extract. If you're going for the pain relief side, I would make an extract. I wouldn't even use the essential oil. I mean, you could, absolutely, but I feel like maybe extract, you're still getting some of the essential oils, you're getting the other constituents, and it's a little less potent, right, for just a mouthwash blend, because essential oils are highly, highly potent, so we want to keep them to a minimum in general and use them with care. Yeah, isn't it? I thought it was interesting too when I learned that about yarrow root. So really you could utilize the entire, if you had enough yarrow to harvest. And actually, shout out to Marilyn Carter, if you're friends with her. She has so much yarrow in her property right now. She's always like, I'm trying to give them away to people, yarrow plants. You could pull out the entire plant, of course, asking permission first, and tincture the whole thing from the root all the way up to the flower. All right. Yes, clove is very antimicrobial, and I will say that I don't know that there's an essential oil that isn't antimicrobial. Some are more specific, like some are antimicrobial and antiviral and anti-inflammatory, but like I think across the board, because that's how essential oils act in plants. They're the protective mechanism for plants against, different fungi and diseases and pests, that's why they exist, to ward off microbes and to ward off viruses and diseases. So I want to say, I don't know that any of them aren't antimicrobial in some way, shape, or form, which is kind of cool too. So that's why they're so highly potent and effective for so many different things. Sorry, I keep leaning in. Excellent. Yes. Okay. So that was question 1 answered. Moving on. I don't know if you can, I'm not going to bother trying to show you, but I have some of these. And I've totally, it's so funny. I did a little research because I didn't know the scientific name for these little things. And now I can't remember what the name is. It's like an angiosma. I totally butchered it. Basically, they're like little red moles that show up on your skin. Little like red, they look like little blood blisters almost. And that's what they are. And someone was asking about, why they happen and ways maybe to prevent them or treat them. First of all, they're very, very common. And over time, I have a really nice one on my shoulder right now. I wish I could show it to you, but I'm not gonna bother messing up the angle of the camera. But you can look them up. And I'll actually put the correct term in the comments below, since I butchered it. But basically, it is indicative of blood pooling in the skin, which relates to vasculature issues and cardiovascular laxity within the vessels of our, all the vasculature of our body, the veins and the capillaries and whatnot. And they just kind of pool open, and they just create these little, they look like moles, but they're like reddish. Not even reddish, they are red. And it's basically, they're very harmless. They don't, they often don't turn into cancerous moles or anything like that. They just hang out for sometimes a year or two before they turn into like a tan or a brown color and turn into moles, like what regular moles look like. But I will say that it does reflect laxity and an issue of the cardiovascular health of the person. So things that you can tune into. Thank you, angioma. Thank you, Jen. I was putting an S. Okay, so things you can do is just really thinking about things that are tonifying, things that are they're giving your tissues a facelift, basically. So one thing that I've never really bothered with mine, I'm just like, whatever. They're just there. I've accepted them. But one of the things that you could play with, actually yarrow is a really great one, because yarrow it rules the blood, and it helps to kind of clear out dead blood, but also helps to astringe and tonify. So yarrow is one of my favorite plants to use topically. You could do compress, you could do liniment, you could do make a salve, and just actually apply the yarrow to those spots, or use a body oil even to those spots to help rid the blood, move it out, and in the meantime also tonify your vasculature, the veins, the venous system. It also works on the cardiovascular system, so it's great for people who deal with blood clots a lot in the body and need to kind of thin the blood. But yarrow is cool because it actually thins or thickens the blood depending on what your body needs, so it's a really smart plant in that way. Other things to consider, always liver support and bitters. So eating bitters and astringents in your diet, which correlate to a healthy liver, super, super important. Some of my other favorite plants to like tone the body, and they're more well known for women just because they do correspond to the reproductive system, but they're used across the board as tonifiers, as you know, they literally kind of suck everything together and just give everything else strength. Would be a red raspberry leaf, lady's mantle, nettle for sure. So getting nettle in your diet because it's such a huge liver supporter, as well as God, it's just such a powerhouse for so many different things, but it definitely supports liver, digestion, nervous system function, and it just helps to, it's a little astringent. There's not really bitterness to it, but it really helps to kind of just draw things together, and cools inflammation, which is often a part of laxity in the vessels. It's usually called like a damp heat. So there's heat often associated with weak, you know, if you have varicose veins, if you have hemorrhoids, things like that. So you want to cool and tone those tissues. So liver support, astringent foods, bitter foods in your diet. So think greens, dandelion greens, spinach greens, nettle greens if you have them. The more bitter, the better. And of course, you know, if you know you are someone who struggles with high blood pressure or heart disease or anything like that, hawthorn is by far one of the best plants to work with. It's so safe. I got my father on hawthorn a long time ago, and he has a couple different heart things going on, but it's just a really fantastic plant that kind of hones in on the whole system, and specifically strengthening the heart, but it trickles out, of course, into the whole area of, you know, all of the blood vessels of our body as well. Trying to think of other topical herbs that would work well if you wanted to like create a body cream or body oil. So yarrow, tansy. Tansy is a stronger plant that you wouldn't want to use internally, just topically, again, as a poultice or a liniment of some sort, but I use it in my varicose vein creams and things like that when I make them. Any of the sorrels are super duper tonifying, really just suck everything in, tone everything up, again, topically only. But those are the things that are coming to mind. And of course, you know, when you're starting to see these moles, it's a systemic thing. It's your body talking to you like, hey, you know, blood's starting to pool, things are getting oozy. So you really want to pay attention to it, although it is super common and they are very benign. So it's not a huge concern, but it is, you know, all these little things that we kind of brush off are still communications of our body trying to tell us things and offering us a lesson, if you will, to take a closer peek at what might be going on with our health. All right, sorry, there's a okay, no other questions yet. There's like a glare, so I can barely see the screen here. All right, so that was question number 2. Question number 3, and if you have any questions, you're still hanging with me, please feel free to throw them in the comments and I will get to them, or email them to me later and I'll answer them next week. So I'm gonna start. I brought some friends with me for this third question, and it was about chakra work. Now we hear the word chakra a lot more commonly, but the Sanskrit pronunciation is chakra, like chocolate, but really they're interchangeable. But I'm kind of a stickler of, I like saying things the way they're meant to say. So I say chakra, but chakra or chakra, it was about how to start balancing them for yourself, like on a regular basis. And, you know, that's a big lifelong effort and job, and we all have to do it. But I want to start with this lovely singing bowl, and this one is actually, the tone of it is specific for the throat chakra. So I'm going to take a moment and gong it for us. this is one of my favorite ways to clear energy and to help to balance my energy and my chakras. And so sound can be really powerful. But really what we're doing is smudging or clearing, moving energy out. The one thing that, that throws our chakras out are just, everyday life experiences. We're constantly coming in and out of balance with, and for me, I follow the 7 major chakra system. So we've got our root at the perineum. We've got our belly chakra, literally right below the belly button. We've got our solar plexus right around the middle, next to the stomach, like in the middle of the sternum. We've got our heart, we've got our throat, we've got our third eye, and we've got our crown. So those are the ones I follow. Different traditions follow lots of different amounts of chakras. So that's just the one that I tend to focus on the most. But our life's experiences and how we process those experiences or traumas or, the good and the bad, the ugly, can affect how our chakras behave. If they're open, if they're closed, if they've just are not sort of being utilized at all, if they've shut down. And that can affect how we feel on an emotional plane. Of course, it starts at the spiritual level and then emotional level and then eventually physical level. So sometimes we can actually see someone with a physical imbalance and walk it back to something that may have affected that chakra system, which is really fascinating. So when we're working on our energy systems, when we're working on our chakras, it's one of the best ways to kind of start from the middle, digging deep into the layers to help heal from the inside out. And it's something that's very easily done, but it's something that you have to do regularly. So sound is one way. So I really call this practice really energy clearing or smudging. And it's just about sloughing off your day or starting your day with some sort of support. Especially for folks that tend to feel more sensitive or empathic. It's a really important tool to utilize. When I'm being really diligent, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm diligent every single day of the week, even though I would like to be, I do some sort of smudging. I'm going to show you what that looks like and some options for you to play with if you don't already do this. First thing in the morning and right before, if I would say as my work day's over or as I'm after dinner, getting ready for bed. And it's basically just about clearing energy that may have been stuck on you or you kind of you've taken on. There's a lot of energy going on around the world of just everything, all the heaviness of just the world right now in all of its layers. We're being asked to look at ourselves in lots of different ways, not just with the virus, with inequalities, everything, and that can really settle in. And that can help us grow, but it also, sometimes we have to just slough it off and set it aside so that we can rest, right? And then come back to it. And so all this energy that's swirling around is the number one thing that's going to throw our chakras on and off throughout our days. So sound is really beautiful, and even though this is for the throat chakra, it's still vibration, so it can actually assess. Sometimes it's one chakra that's kind of throwing the rest off, or that one chakra that is making you feel off. So using sound is really helpful to clear yourself. And this is a little too big. I don't want to drop it. That would be horrible. It's a crystal, made of crystals. I wouldn't want to do that. But I also have a rattle. Okay, so rattle is, and it doesn't resonate with everyone. Hopefully you can see me. But I love the sound of a rattle. So one of the best ways to kind of clear yourself and ground yourself and allow that to affect your chakras is just by using it. So the places in our bodies that we kind of hold the most gunk, or the most sort of gunk accumulates, are the palms of the hands, the elbows, the backs of the knees, the root, and the bottoms of the feet. So when you're doing this, you just kind of work. You can be as loud or as soft as you want to be. Just kind of go with what sounds good, what feels good in your body. And I can actually feel energy shifts when I'm using this, or when I'm using any of the tools that I'm going to continue to show you in a second. And it can be really quick, or it can be a few minutes long, but we're always holding the intention of clearing the energy out, releasing and asking the chakras to come back to their balance. Just holding that intention. The intention of any sort of ritual or self-care practice is so important. And so this is just another example of using sound for this. This is another great way just to clear the house. So it's not even just about yourself. You know, you want to think about, are you energy clearing your house? Because any energy that's stuck within the place that you live or where you work, even your car, that can latch onto you as well. And again, it's going to affect that etheric body within the chakras as well. Another option is a liquid. These are like a liquid smudge. So you can burn sage, you can burn herbs that, you know, there are some herbs for certain practices. I love lavender and sage and sweet fern for clearing. But you can also utilize, you know, whatever you're feeling pulled to. Of course, there's Palo Santo, and white sage and Palo Santo are certainly being a little overly, they're really being over-harvested. People aren't growing them for the right reasons, you know, and it's the wild crafting aspect. People are not being sustainable about it. So please be mindful about who you support in the realm of white sage and Palo Santo. But I'm growing my own presently, not the Palo Santo, but the white sage. They're really small, but I'm trying. But there's so many other herbs, especially like local herbs that you can use. Like white pine is great, cedar is great. Anything that's aromatic can be really helpful for clearing, but just trust your heart and your gut around the herbs that you burn. And the same thing would happen is that you would take the, you know, make sure that your windows are open, even if just one window is open, because you want the energy that you're sloughing off to move out somewhere. You don't want to just settle in your house, okay? You want it to be cleared and moved out. So you want to make sure that you're giving it space to move. Otherwise, it's just going to latch on to something or someone else. So whether you are burning your herbs or maybe you've created a little aromatic spray, and this has essential oils and flower essences. And flower essences are amazing. If you've not worked with them yet, you can really hone in on certain qualities that help different emotional states, which could absolutely correlate to certain chakra issues that you might be honing in on as well, or wanting to work more with. Rescue Remedy is a great one just to start with. It's an all-encompassing sort of stress, anxiety reliever, and it just helps to ground yourself a little bit more. And then again, you can mimic whatever essential oils you're using for things that you would be burning instead. So if you're in an apartment building that isn't jiving with you burning stuff in the place, or it's a smoke-free zone, the liquid sprays are just as awesome. And you just, again, armpits, back to the knees, feet, palms, and just breathe with it. Hold the intention. You're clearing yourself. You're grounding yourself. You're inviting the chakras to find their natural state, their healthy natural state, and just, you know, be with it. And you absolutely should feel an energy shift. You should feel more grounded, more peaceful, just clearer. And if you don't, that's okay. Maybe that you still play around with another tool. This is selenite. Selenite is specific for balancing all the energy centers. So even taking this and sleeping with it at night, right? Just putting it on your chest and giving thanks to it and asking, hey man, can you just help balance me a little bit better? That would be awesome. But you can also use it in the same way to clear yourself. So, and this is what I would do with the actual smoke. So if I had a little a container with herbal smoke, I would just be wafting the smoke around me. So you always want to sweep down, again, get those nooks and crannies, and you should feel the energy moving out, and you should feel just more centered. You're breathing, you're holding the intentions of why you're doing it, and you're asking that it's being done for your highest and best self, okay, harming no one else. So another great tool. Selenite is self-cleaning, if you will, self-clearing, but I still like to clear it once in a while. And so cool, an option to do is to use our lovely little singing bowl here to use the vibration to help even clear our other allies that we might be using for self-smudging. What was the other thing? There's one other thing I wanted. Oh yes, so mantra. Is another way to use sound. And there are, again, chakras are a very broad, very old system, and it's a whole other, like, we could go off for hours on the chakra system. In certain resources, you'll be told that certain sounds correlate to each of the chakras. That's not entirely true. Most of these sounds are called bija mantras. So Om is not a bija mantra. Om is just like kind of the sound of all things, which is why it correlates to the crown. Okay, so that's kind of, it was the sound that created the universe, supposedly. But sham, which is often associated with the third eye, ham, which is also usually associated with the throat, yam, which is usually associated with the heart, ram, which is usually associated with the solar plexus, belly is vam usually, and the root is lam. So those are actually relating to the different elements. Okay, different elements meaning earth, air, fire, water, space. And that's all well and good. So you could actually use different mantras for the different chakras if that's what you're working on, according to what you feel you need going on here. So they don't necessarily, they're not like married to the chakras, but the sounds are very wonderful. So if you feel really like in your head and you're not grounded and you feel spacey, go ahead and use lam, which is the earth sound. And the way that you do bija mantras, like Om is usually like a long drawn out, like Om, and you try to like take a nice deep breath and make it as long and drawn out as possible. Bija mantras are short, and so it would be like lam, 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 and you still feel the vibration of building, but it's a short little sort of chant that you're doing. And I love using them. And if you're not into chanting or you've not done it, or if you have throat chakra issues like me, it feels really funny to do at first. But they're very powerful and they're very insightful, where sometimes I will just go through all of them and I will just feel them in my body, and I will notice where I feel the vibration, where it goes, and I will listen to the sound of my voice, and I will notice which ones make my voice crack or which ones feel harder for me to say, and that helps me to hone in on maybe the energy centers that they're specifically tied to, or just gives you a deeper insight into like what's going on. Like if it's the water element, that was a trickier one, or if it's the air element, or if it's this, it helps you to tune in to where you might need support that day. Okay. And what's cool about mantras too is that you don't have to say them out loud. So you can be at work or at a party and you're like, oh man, I feel really, excuse me, I'm taking a sip here, I feel really out of it. I'm just gonna chant some rams for a few seconds, and you can do that in your head, and it'll still benefit you, and it'll still have, it's obviously you're not gonna feel it, right, the vibration of your voice, but the energy is still there, and it can really, really help. So I will go ahead and say Om is just like the universal sound. Sham is, oh man, is that air? I think that's air. Hum is space. Yam is, oh no, see, I've got it wrong again. What is sham? Maybe sham isn't related to an element. I'm gonna look that up, guys, and put it in the comments. So ignore the sham one. Hum is air. Space is yam. Ram is fire, the fire element. Vam is the water element, and lam is the earth element. Okay, so you can write those down, and again, as you're chanting them, it's just little chants like vam 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 vam, and you can start again, take a deep breath and continue, and you just do it again until you feel a shift in your energy. And you can do all of them or you can do one of them, doesn't matter. But I will say that beginning and ending your day, or even just doing it when you feel like out of sorts, any of these tools, sound, selenite, singing bowl, rattle, spray, herbal smudge, utilize it, because it really helps on a regular basis to keep things moving out and keep your energy open for what serves you and what does balance you and bring you back to yourself within your etheric body and your chakra system on a regular basis, because we're constantly just kind of riding the waves of life, and so we don't ever stay balanced. There's no such thing as balance. It's really just kind of going with the flow and doing our best to kind of keep ourselves as light as possible. One other thing that keeps popping into my head, which I know I like when that happens, I need to talk about it, is I actually spoke about it last week, but we'll talk about it real briefly again just because it corresponds to this, is something called limpia, and it is it's using herbs to smudge but in a different way. So if I had a big bundle, like a bouquet of some plant material, I would do the same thing as like what I was doing with, so imagine this is my bundle of herbs, and you just kind of slap yourself with them. You slap yourself with them head to toe, and it's like you're just washing away the crap with the plants, and the plants are acting like a magnet, and they're sucking it off of you, and you're just continuing to clean yourself. And what's so wonderful, again, this is the growing season. This is when plants are so abundant and generous, and they want us to utilize them, always asking permission, and they smell so good. So, choosing the aromatic plants like the basils and the lavender and the mugwort and anything that you feel drawn to, and using that to create limpia, to clear yourself. You can also do herbal baths, add these aromatic herbs to a bath soak or a foot soak, again with the intention of just helping to clear and cleanse your spirit and your energies, and they will. Always making sure that once you're done with those herbs, to go throw them outside, bury them, give thanks to them, and just kind of ask that they transmute that energy that they've helped you lift and return back to the earth. So I know that was a lot of different things to consider, and again, the chakra system is such a vast one in the ways that you can work with it, but I feel like not even going into the specifics of breaking down the chakras and the other ways, clearing energy is going to affect everything. It's like the first tool to use when you're trying to do more energy work for yourself and more balancing work. So I hope that was a helpful explanation for taking a step into that realm a bit more. I'm just going to lift my phone to see if there are any questions. No? Okay, so if anyone's still out there, it's always hard to see live attendees, but if there's anyone out still listening to me here live and you have a question, please go ahead and post it. I'll give it a couple more minutes and I'm happy to answer live, and if not, no worries, you can email them to me later. Maybe you don't have a question, you were just tuning in. That's totally cool as well. But just a reminder that today is the second to last Q&A. I'm going to offer one more next week, next Wednesday, and then I will be slowly easing into my journey into motherhood when I'm going to pop this little thing out of my belly, getting closer to my due date. So I'll be honing my energy in there. All right, so I'm just gonna wait another minute or so to see if anyone wants to take advantage of asking me live. And again, I get it. If you want to be incognito, you can always send me a question later anonymously. Put my beautiful crystal singing bowl away. It was a gift from my awesome sister-in-law this year. It even has a little carrying case, which is pretty awesome. Oh, okay, I see some questions maybe, or just comments. Oh, awesome, Kristen. Yes, let me know how that mouthwash goes for you. It's fun to just kind of troubleshoot and play with, and you have so much knowledge that you can just throw into the mix too, but let me know what you end up doing and how you enjoy it. I really like having my own mouthwash. Cool. All right, guys, so that might be it. So I guess I will just tune in with you all next week, and I hope you're enjoying this gorgeous day out, and thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, guys.